Imagine walking through a grocery store and seeing two packages of ground beef sitting side by side. One label says 90% lean. The other label says 10% fat. Which one would you actually reach for? Most people instinctively grab the package that says 90% lean, even though both labels are describing the exact same product with the exact same amount of fat inside it. Nothing about the meat changed. Only the words printed on the package did. Yet that simple wording shift was enough to change what people believed about the quality of the product sitting right in front of them, without a single fact about the meat itself actually being different. Since 90% lean and 10% fat describe exactly the same package, sitting on the same shelf. Psychologists call this the framing effect. It describes how the way information is presented, not the actual content of the information itself, can change the decisions people make. Your brain does not evaluate raw facts in a vacuum. It evaluates facts through whatever frame they happen to be wrapped in first. A gain framed positively feels more appealing than the exact same outcome framed as avoiding a loss, even when the math behind both options is completely identical. The words surrounding a fact are never neutral wrapping paper. They quietly become part of the decision itself, shaping which direction your gut leans before your logical brain even gets a chance to catch up, let alone actually compare the two versions side by side, the way a purely rational decision maker would presumably want to. Researchers demonstrated this using a medical decision experiment. Doctors were given the exact same surgery outcome statistics, but described in two different ways. One group was told the surgery had a 90% survival rate. The other group was told the same surgery had a 10% mortality rate. Both numbers described the identical outcome. Yet doctors who heard the survival framing were significantly more likely to recommend the surgery than doctors who heard the mortality framing. Trained medical professionals, who fully understood the statistics involved, still leaned in completely different directions, based purely on which number was emphasized in the sentence they were given, a shift most of them never even noticed happening, despite years of medical training built specifically to guard against exactly this kind of bias. This same trick shows up everywhere once you know where to look for it. A credit card fee described as a 2% surcharge feels far more annoying than the same cost described as a 2% discount for paying cash, even though both phrasings result in the exact same price. A limited time offer creates urgency that an identical, permanently available discount never manages to create, purely through the framing of scarcity. Even something as simple as a doctor saying you have an 80% chance of recovery sounds completely different from a doctor saying you have a 20% chance of the condition getting worse, despite both sentences describing the exact same medical reality, one that never actually changed no matter which version was spoken out loud. Only the emotional temperature of the sentence itself ever shifted. The reason framing works so powerfully comes down to loss aversion. Humans generally feel the pain of a loss more intensely than the pleasure of an equivalent gain. Marketers, doctors, negotiators, and politicians all learned, whether through research or simple trial and error, that framing an outcome around what you stand to lose creates a stronger emotional pull than framing the exact same outcome around what you stand to gain. This is not necessarily dishonest. The facts themselves usually remain completely accurate in both versions. It is simply a matter of which accurate fact gets placed in the spotlight, and which accurate fact quietly gets left standing in the shadows instead, waiting patiently for someone curious enough to actually go looking for it, instead of accepting whichever framing happened to arrive first. The best way to protect yourself from framing is to deliberately translate any important fact into its opposite framing before making a decision. If you are told something has a 90% success rate, force yourself to also say out loud that it has a 10% failure rate, and notice whether your gut reaction actually changes. If both versions still feel equally acceptable to you, you are probably judging the situation on its real merits. If one version suddenly feels far more frightening or appealing than the other, that gap is exactly where the framing was doing its work. The next time a number, a deal, or a decision feels unusually urgent or unusually comfortable, pause and ask how the exact same fact would sound phrased the opposite way. If this video changed how you read labels, headlines, and offers, subscribe. Because the truth rarely changes, only the wrapping paper around it does.